It's strawberry season now, and I'm going to do one of my favorite things, which is a pound cake, or in French we call it Quatre-Quarts, the 4 quarters. And it literally is 4 even measurements to create this great pound cake. And you can do lots of different variations on it, but I'm going to do it very simple and straightforward today, so you see the base, and then you'll probably see me do it again later down the road. The most important thing is that you have a scale. And a little scale, it doesn't have to be very big or expensive, something that is reliable and you just keep your eye on the batteries. And so you start by weighing the eggs, and you weigh them in the shell, which makes it really easy. And these are sort of small, medium eggs, so I'm going for about 250 grams. That's 238. That's 300. So let's stay with that. We'll go with 300 grams as the basis. So it's 300 grams of eggs, 300 grams of sugar, 300 grams of flour, and 300 grams of butter. So simple. You don't even ever have to write it down. You're going to memorize it. 4 ingredients and a little bit of flavoring, and that's it. So we'll start with mixing up. We're going to start with mixing up the eggs and the sugar first. These are nice, fresh farm eggs. And the difference when you use really good eggs, this is a big part of the flavor of this pound cake. And it's going to be rich and buttery and creamy from the egg yolks. So we want to make sure that we do that. And then I just break up the egg yolk a little bit. And since I'm going to whip it quite a bit with the sugar, we'll just measure that. So now I have 300 grams of sugar, which is a lot. And you think like, oh, it's too much. In fact, that's exactly 300. And then depending on your sugar, in France, normal sugar, baking, cooking sugar, comes from sugar beets. And as it's processed, it's a little stronger grain than what I'm used to or what I grew up with working with in the States. So there are various variations of superfine sugars besides powdered sugar, icing sugar. But just with this, all I need to do is make sure that the sugar liquefies in the eggs. And the easiest way to do that is just to keep beating. I don't have to make it frothy, but the eggs are what's going to give the lift to this recipe. I like to use a really sturdy whisk with this because this is quite a thick, sugary mess, and you want it to be sort of thin ribbons, nice beautiful golden color. And this cake really is beautiful, the golden cake and the red strawberries. You can use a mixer, an electric mixer, and just let it paddle or mix this for a while. But I can start to see that the sugar crystals are liquefying in here, and it's not so granulated as it was before. All right. Now we're going to do the next part of the measuring. So we've got 300 grams of eggs, in their shells, which we've then taken them out of their shells, 300 grams of sugar, and now I'm going to measure the butter. And this is a 500 gram block, so I should be able to eyeball it for about 300 grams. You see, that's a wonderful big block of butter. Just almost on the nose. Perfect. So in order to incorporate, there's a lot of recipes, it's a very classic dish. In order to incorporate the butter, the easiest way to do it is to actually melt it. So I'm just going to cut it into this saucepan, break it up enough so it'll melt faster. Just put it over a low heat. You don't really want it boiling or anything like that. Okay. And while I'm doing this, let's just measure out the rest of the flour, or measure out the flour, which is the last of the main ingredients. So one of the things you learn is like a big scoop like this is about 50 grams. So when you're cooking, you're doing things by metric or by measurement, you learn your equivalents, and that's 300 grams there. So with 6 scoops, so that's easy to do. So we'll have this ready to go. I'm going to put a pinch of salt in it as well. Now you'll notice that there's not any leavening, extra leavening like baking powder or baking soda. I've seen recipes where you do add a little bit of baking powder, but the eggs, and by really whisking it, the eggs are what's going to give a lift to the cake. And the pound cake isn't an airy cake, it's a very dense cake, and that's why it works well with the strawberries. So as the butter is starting to melt, and it's just sort of milky, you don't want it to go super clear, we'll let that stay low. I'm going to start to incorporate the flour into the eggs and the sugar. So egg, sugar, flour, and that's no other liquid. And you just want to work it in little by little so it gets absorbed. You get to have a sense when you bake a lot or cook a lot, you understand your utensils and your tools, everything from the bowl. The bowl is heavy so it doesn't move around much on the table. I don't have to have something underneath it. And then the whisk is just open enough that I can pull all the batter through, and it doesn't get clumped up in the middle. Some whisks, balloon whisks, are too light and fine, and they wouldn't work for this, so that's why I chose a sturdy one. And now you can see by adding the flour to the eggs, I don't have any lumps. There was no additional liquid like milk or water, so there's no lumps at all. It's a nice smooth batter. And just as the just as the butter is starting to melt, you can break up the bigger chunks a little bit. This is one of those things where it doesn't take very long to put it together, but you don't want to walk away and let the butter start to brown. Although I did make a version the other day with brown sugar and buttered the brown butter. It was really delicious. Okay, so that's set. And now I'm just going to pour this in just little by little, this melted butter, until it's incorporated into the batter. So we're adding the fat, but it's also in a liquid form, so it's going to thin the batter a little, which is what we want too. Most cake recipes start with creaming the butter in the sugar. This one is a little different because we start with the eggs and the sugar. Just turn it and incorporate it in. You don't need to do this on high speed, just as a gentle. You don't want to work in a lot of air into this batter. The smell of this cake when it's baking is absolutely special because you're really just getting this beautiful buttery sugar mix, and I'm going to add a secret little flavor into it as well, which makes it really Gascon and my signature flavoring. Okay. And at this point, just as I'm at the end of incorporating all of this, I'm going to add in some, not just Armagnac, but Armagnac that I have been soaking vanilla beans in for the last couple months. So there's about 10 vanilla beans cut up into halves. And I use this as my essence for all my cakes, so that has the scent of the Armagnac and the vanilla together. And it's really, you can use rum. That's very old-fashioned here to use rum as a flavoring. And this is like your vanilla extract. Let me add just a little more. And then when it's cooking, you're going to smell this Armagnac and vanilla scent the entire kitchen up. It's almost like a caramel smell. Okay. And you can see again how the beautiful ribbons form from this. And then we're ready to go. I've chosen 2 small cake tins. One is a standard or non-stick small 8-inch cake tin, or 20, I think maybe 20 centimeters. And the other is a little pottery gratin that I have. They're very similar in size. So this recipe makes enough to, if you've got 300 grams times 4, it's like 1,200 grams or 1.5 kilograms. You can measure what you need by measuring water. A liter of water weighs 1 kilo. So a liter or 1,200 milliliters, you would see these are the perfect size for that. So I'm going to butter this a little bit. I use some of the butter from the pan that's melted, and just go ahead and give a good coating to the bottom and the sides. And then, because I want to make sure I can take this out of the tin, I might serve this, the one in here, in this nice serving bowl. But in this one, I want to remove it from there, and I'm going to use a little paper, parchment paper that comes cut to size like that. I ordered online, and then it makes it easy. I don't make a lot of cakes, but when I do, it makes it super easy. And then the butter will stick to that, and I'll butter the inside as well. Hopefully, well, not too much on the sides. All right. And then this is where your spatula is your best friend, because you want to get everything together. And I'll just evenly divide this batter. Some into this pan, some into this pottery. And make sure you get all, you don't want any going to waste. unless you have somebody to lick the bowl. I make sure I get all of this into the cake batter. Just level it a little bit. It'll level itself out as it bakes, and it will rise. All the eggs will make it rise. Okay. This is what I have to do. Delicious. So this goes into an oven about 350 degrees or 175 Celsius, and will bake between, depending on the size of the cake, between 30 to 45 minutes. So I'll set the timer for 30 minutes, come back and look at it, and if I need to, I'll bake it a little bit longer. Okay. This is part 2. So while the cakes are cooling down, I'm just going to prep these little strawberries. These are early season strawberries, so they need a little juice, a little help to get their juices going. And they're come up from Spain at this time of year, but within a month, by the end of April, we're going to have all the local strawberries from this area, which is famous for the Quatre-Quarts and the Charlottes and all the other wonderful names of about 20 different varieties of strawberries that I can get at the market here and from farms just all around me. But like anything, I love the first of something, the first asparagus, the first strawberry. So I wanted to celebrate those with these. Just enough to give us a little taste with our cake. And then the easiest thing to do is just a squeeze of lemon. That'll help balance the sugar, and I'm going to add a little sugar and the acidity, but also will start to draw out the actual strawberry juices. So just a little tablespoon over these, that's enough. And as they sit, you'll start to see that red juice start to run enough that will be a wonderful balance for the pound cake, the Quatre-Quarts. And those are, I think that's one of the things, you don't want a heavy syrup. You want to have the flavor come through of those, of that beautiful cake. So let me just... Okay, let's see. I'm going to take this one. There we go. Nice and brown. It is not pale. It is cooked all the way through. And you can tell by when it's just warm out of the oven, it'll spring back slightly. But if you need to, you want to use a toothpick or to see if it's cooked enough inside, because you don't want this to be gummy inside. And then letting it sit for just a little bit to cool enough, and then I'll remember buttered the edge and the bottom of this. I'm hoping I can take this all. I'm not going to take the whole thing out. I'm just going to cut a plate, cut a wedge. You smell the butter and the Armagnac. And then this, you can see how nice and golden that is inside. That's all the egg yolks. And to serve this, it's so simple just to take the strawberries or any other fruit, but since we're celebrating April strawberries fruit, a big dollop of nice thick creme fraiche. I like to buy the creme fraiche in the glass jars because for me it's sort of just a cleaner and more local product, and also I don't have to recycle the plastic. And then we'll just drape these over the top. It's not a strawberry shortcake, it's just the pound cake with strawberries and the creme fraiche. Even Chica likes it. And I guess I need a fork so I can try it. Help. Elaine, can you pass me a fork? Thanks. Thank you. Okay. So, the best part about this is the cake is just fresh, it's still warm. The strawberries are just exuding their juices, and just to go in and get a good bite. That's the taste of April. It's delicious. Thanks so much for joining me in my kitchen at Quatre-Quarts. And don't be afraid, make this cake. You know, be surprised how easy it is, and then you just make it all the time when you need something sweet and delicious, when you have friends come over or just for yourself. That's really good. Oh, chicken. First strawberries. And they do have a really nice flavor. They're not super sweet yet, but they have a really great flavor.
Those bells.